July 4, 1943, 02:17 a.m. The air is so still, you can hear the grass breathing. A lone Soviet T-34-76 sits hulled down on the reverse slope of Hill 252.2, engine off, hatches cracked open just enough for the crew to suck in the warm night. Inside, Senior Sergeant Nikolai Kuznetsov wipes diesel soot from his eyes and listens. No wind, no crickets, only the faint metallic tick of his tank cooling in the dark. 50 meters behind him, in a shallow command trench, Lieutenant Colonel Leonid Pavlov of the 170th Tank Brigade presses a field telephone to his ear. The voice on the other end is calm, almost sleepy. Comrade Colonel, German reconnaissance flares just went up over the Peiper River. They're probing. Pavlov doesn't answer immediately. He lowers the handset, lights a cigarette with a trembling match, and stares south. There, beyond the black ribbon of the river, the horizon is beginning to glow, not with dawn, but with something colder. The unmistakable shimmer of hundreds of infrared searchlights the Germans call Lucifer. The first whisper that tomorrow the earth itself will burn. 12 kilometers to the west, inside the steel belly of a brand new Panzer V5 Panther, turret number 432, Oberleutnant Rudolf von Ribbentrop, yes, the son of the foreign minister, checks his watch. The hands crawl toward 030. In 30 minutes, the greatest concentration of armor the world has ever seen will roll forward. His orders are simple. Punch through the Soviet second defensive belt before breakfast, take Prokhorovka by noon, and open the road to Kursk. Ribbentrop closes the cupola, pulls on his throat microphone, and speaks the words that will echo in the nightmares of survivors for decades. Panzermarsch. Back on the hill, Kuznetsov suddenly stiffens. A low, growing tremor vibrates up through the T-34's road wheels. It is not thunder. It is the sound of 700 German tanks starting their Maybach engines at once. An earthquake made of iron. Dust begins to rise along the entire front like a moving wall. Kuznetsov slams the hatch, screams into the intercom. "Driver, start the engine, they're coming." The V2 diesel coughs, catches, roars. Across the invisible killing fields south of Prokhorovka, thousands of men on both sides feel the same cold jolt in their gut. Because every soldier here, German, Russian, young, old, knows one thing with perfect clarity. When the sun rises in less than 3 hours, more tanks will fight on this one patch of earth than have ever clashed in human history. And most of them will never see another sunset. But right now, in this last pocket of silence, Senior Sergeant Nikolai Kuznetsov does something strange. He reaches into his breast pocket, pulls out a crumpled photograph of his wife and 2 small daughters standing in front of a sunflower field back in Voronezh, and kisses it once. Then he racks the first 76mm round into the breech. The silence shatters. Far to the south, the first German flare arcs into the sky like a white-hot comet, hanging for an impossibly long moment. And the greatest tank battle ever fought begins with a flash that turns night into blinding day. But that flash is still minutes away. And what happens in those minutes? What decisions are made in frozen dugouts? What whispered prayers rise from both sides will decide whether the Red Army breaks here or whether the Wehrmacht bleeds to death on the plains of Kursk. You're not watching history. You're standing in it. 0300 hours. The first shell lands with the sound like God ripping sheet metal. A 280mm railway gun, hidden deep in the forests near Orel, hurls its half-ton projectile 30 kilometers through the night. It detonates directly on top of the Soviet 15th Rifle Division's command post. Men, maps, samovar, gone. Just a crater and burning paper fluttering down like black snow. That is the signal. From the Baltic to the Black Sea, the entire Eastern Front convulses awake. But here, on the northern shoulder of the Kursk salient, the real fury is only beginning. In a forward observation post carved into the side of a nameless ravine, General Walter Model, commander of the Ninth Army, stands with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the horizon erupt. Model is not a man given to theatrics. His face, scarred from the First War, barely moves, but his chief of staff sees the knuckles go white. Because Model knows something the Führer does not want to hear. The Soviets knew they were coming. Every minefield the Germans mapped in June has been doubled. Every bridge they plan to seize is already wired with 1,000 kilos of TNT. And worst of all, every shallow fold in the earth that was supposed to hide the advance now bristles with the low, deadly silhouettes of Su-85 assault guns and dug-in T-34s. Model's driver, a young Bavarian named Sepp, whispers without meaning to. Mein Gott, it's like attacking a fortress made of tanks. Model doesn't reprimand him. He simply turns, picks up the field telephone, and does something no German general has done since 1941. He asks for permission to halt the attack. In Berlin, Hitler's voice crackles back almost immediately. Continue the attack. No withdrawal. That is an order. Model hangs up without saluting. 30 kilometers south, inside the command dugout of the Central Front, General Konstantin Rokossovsky is already on his third cigarette. His intelligence officer, a sharp-eyed woman named Captain Maria Laguna, spreads fresh aerial photographs across the map table. Look here, Comrade General. She taps a cluster of dark blobs moving towards Poniri Station. Ferdinands, at least 90 of them, the new heavy assault guns, armor thick enough to laugh at 76 millimeters. Rokossovsky exhales smoke through his nose like a dragon. Then we won't use 76 millimeters. He turns to his artillery commander. Bring up the 203 millimeter howitzers from reserve, concrete piercing shells. I want those Ferdinands cracked open like lobsters. Then, quieter, almost to himself. They think they're attacking us. They still don't understand. We've been waiting. 04:15 a.m. Poniri Station, a village so small it barely deserves the name. A company of German combat engineers creeps forward under cover of darkness, wire cutters ready, searching for the first Soviet minefield. Their officer, Lieutenant Hans Woltersdorf, raises his hand to signal halt. Something is wrong. The ground ahead is too neat, too flat. The grass has been combed. Woltersdorf has 1 second to realize what that means. 1,000 Soviet mines, PMD-6 wooden boxes packed with TNT, detonate simultaneously. The blast wave lifts Woltersdorf 20 meters into the air. When he lands, both legs are gone. He is still alive, screaming into the dirt as the second wave of mines, triggered by his own men running forward to help, rips the entire company into red mist. By the time the sun finally claws its way above the horizon at 04:37 a.m., the fields north of Kursk are already burning. But the real horror is just beginning. Because Model has thrown his best weapon into the meat grinder. The 653rd Heavy Panzerjäger Battalion, 90 brand-new Ferdinands, each weighing nearly 70 tons, each armed with the deadly 88mm POC-43. They are supposed to be invincible. At 04:45 a.m., the first Ferdinand crests a low rise outside Poniri, and every Soviet gun within 5 kilometers opens fire at once. You can see it from space, survivors will later say. A wall of flame and steel that turns morning into hell. And in the middle of that inferno, one Ferdinand, call sign Red 232, keeps coming. Its frontal armor shrugs off hit after hit. Sparks fly like welding torches. The commander, Oberleutnant Heinrich Turret, screams over the radio.
July 5th, 11:40 a.m. The temperature inside a Panther turret is already 52 degrees Celsius. Sweat pours off Oberleutnant Rudolf von Ribbentrop's face and stings his eyes, but he cannot wipe it away. Both hands are clamped to the gunner's shoulders, screaming corrections. "Left! Left! T-34 at 2 o'clock, 400 meters! Fire, damn you!" The 75mm KWK-42 thunders. The recoil slams the turret like a giant fist. Through the smoke, Ribbentrop sees the Soviet tank lurch, turret blown sideways like a kicked hat box. A good kill. But there are always more. Grossdeutschland Division, the elite of the elite, has been driving north all morning, trying to smash through the second Soviet defensive belt toward the village of Gertsovka. The plan was elegant on paper. The new Panthers in the lead, Tigers on the flanks, Panzer Grenadiers riding the rear decks. Reality is uglier. The ground here is not the smooth steppe of propaganda newsreels. It is a maze of ravines the Soviets call bulky, deep, knife-cut gullies invisible until you fall in. Every bulka is a death trap. Mines on the floor, T-34s dug in, hull down on the far lip, anti-tank rifles in the grass, Molotov cocktails ready in the hands of teenage boys who crawl forward like wolves. Ribbentrop's Panther, turret number 432, again, shudders to a stop. Transmission gone. The driver screams over the intercom, "Gearbox is burning!" They are stuck in the open, 600 meters from the nearest cover. Ribbentrop makes the decision in half a heartbeat. Bail out! 5 men burst from hatches into a storm of machine gun fire. The loader, Gefreiter Karl-Heinz Decker, is hit instantly. He falls backward into the turret, blood spraying across the breech like red paint. Ribbentrop drags him out by the collar, throws him over the engine deck, and they run. Behind them, a Soviet 45mm anti-tank gun finds the range. The first shell punches through the Panther's thin side armor and detonates inside. The tank erupts in a yellow-white flash. Ammunition cooks off in long, ripping bursts. Decker's body is thrown 30 meters and lands burning in a sunflower field. Ribbentrop and 3 survivors make it to a shallow depression. They lie there panting, listening to the screams of wounded men pinned under burning steel. For the first time, the young aristocrat realizes the war has turned feral. That afternoon, the commander of 2nd SS Panzer Corps, Paul Hauser, receives a situation report that makes even his one good eye narrow. In 8 hours of fighting, the Leibstandart Adolf Hitler, Das Reich, and Totenkopf divisions have advanced barely 7 kilometers. They have lost 42 Panthers, half the entire southern allocation, and every single one of the brand-new Tigers with the experimental long 88 is either burning or bogged down with thrown tracks. Hauser asks the question no one wants to answer. Where are all the Soviet tanks? Because so far, the Red Army has fought with riflemen, mines, artillery, and sheer maddened courage, but almost no armor. The answer is coming. July 5th, 2200 hours. Stalin's private office, the Kremlin. Stalin stands over the map table, his yellow eyes unblinking. Marshal Zhukov and Marshal Vasilevsky wait in silence. Finally, Stalin speaks, voice soft, almost tender. Model is bleeding in the north. Monstein is stuck in the south. The snake has its head in the trap. He places a thick red grease pencil arrow pointing straight at Prokhorovka. Tomorrow, Rotmistrov will release the 5th Guards Tank Army. 31st and 2nd Guards Mechanized Corps will follow at dawn the day after. We will not counterattack. We will annihilate. Zhukov nods once. He has waited 2 years for this moment. July 6th, 04:04 a.m. Forward command post of the 5th Guards Tank Army, a peach orchard outside Prokhorovka. General Pavel Rotmistrov climbs onto the engine deck of his Command T-34 and addresses 800 tanks drawn up in the darkness like a steel carpet. His voice is hoarse from shouting, but every word carries. Comrades, beyond that ridge the fascists believe they have won. They think the Red Army is finished. Tomorrow we will show them the truth. Tomorrow, every crew will fight until his tank burns or the enemy is destroyed. No retreat, no prisoners. For every meter they took from us in 1941 and 1942, we will now take a liter of their blood. A low animal growl rises from 800 tank commanders. Rotmistrov raises his fist. Forward, for the motherland! 800 engines roar in answer. In the German lines, sentries hear it first, a deep, continuous thunder rolling toward them from the east, louder than any artillery barrage, louder than God. A young SS grenadier turns to his sergeant and whispers the sentence that will become legend. Herr Feldwebel, the ground is shaking. The sergeant, a veteran of Kharkov, who thought he had seen everything, feels his bowels turn to water, because he knows what that sound means. The Red Army has finally decided to stop defending. Now it is coming to kill. And every man on both sides knows. In the next 72 hours, the wheat fields around a tiny railway station called Prokhorovka will drink more blood and burn more steel than any battlefield in history. The death ride is about to begin.
8 a.m. The sun is already a white-hot coin nailed to the sky. From the top of Hill 252.2, you can see forever, and forever is on fire. To the west, the black crosses of the Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler and Das Reich divisions. 340 tanks and assault guns in perfect arrowhead formation, rolling forward at 25 kilometers per hour like they still believe in blitzkrieg. To the east, a living tidal wave of olive-drab steel, 850 T-34s and T-70s of Rotmistrov's 18th and 29th Guards Tank Corps, charging straight at them across 2 kilometers of open wheat, spaced 30 meters apart, guns blazing from the move. No one has ever seen anything like it. No one ever will again. The 2 greatest armored forces on Earth are driving full speed into each other's teeth. At 0832, the first shells cross in mid-air. At 0834, the range is 1,200 meters and closing fast. Inside T-34, number 23 of the 170th Tank Brigade, driver-mechanic Junior Sergeant Pyotr Skvortsov has his face pressed to the vision slit. He is 20 years old and has never seen the sea. Today the sea is coming to him, only it is made of panthers and tigers. His commander, Lieutenant Vladimir Buchkovsky, stands half out of the cupola, cap blown off, red hair streaming, screaming like a madman. Faster, Pyotr! Ram them if you have to! Don't stop for anything! Skvortsov floors the pedal. The T-34 surges to 48 kilometers per hour, faster than it has ever gone. The engine howls in agony. 600 meters ahead, a Tiger of the 1st SS Panzer Regiment looms out of the smoke like a gray cathedral. Its 88 speaks once. The shell misses high, air bursts above the charging Russians, showering them with steel splinters. Buchkovsky doesn't flinch. He drops into the turret, slams the gunner's shoulder. Turret left, Tiger, 800. Fire and keep firing. The 76mm spits flame. Hit, hit, hit. Sparks cascade off the Tiger's frontal plate like a metal rainstorm. No penetration. 400 meters. The Tiger's second shot tears the left track off a neighboring T-34. The Russian tank slews sideways, rolls, bursts into flame. Men crawl out burning. 200 meters. Buchkovsky's gunner, Sergeant Ivan Petrov, has gone berserk. He is cranking the turret by hand, firing as fast as the loader can shove shells in. Die, you bastards! The fourth shell punches straight through the Tiger's driver's visor. The 800-ton monster veers right, engine exploding, and collides with a Panther trying to pass. Both tanks lock together in a grinding embrace and burn. 50 meters. Buchkovsky and the Tiger commander lock eyes across the narrowing gap, two young men who will never know each other's names. Buchkovsky screams one word into the intercom. Ram him! Pyotr Skvortsov closes his eyes and floors it. Steel meets steel at a combined speed of 70 kilometers an hour. The impact is apocalyptic. Buchkovsky's T-34 rides up the Tiger's glacis plate, gun barrel stabbing skyward, then crashes down on the German engine deck. For one impossible second, the two tanks are fused together, Russian and German crews staring at each other through open hatches 10 meters apart. Then every ready round in both tanks cooks off at once. A white flash, a column of fire 50 meters high, a shockwave that flattens wheat in a perfect circle. When the smoke clears, there is only a single crater full of twisted metal and meat. That single collision is happening in 100 places at once. The battlefield dissolves into a point-blank knife fight across 3 square kilometers. Tanks ram each other. Tanks fire into each other's engine decks at 5 meters. Crews who lose their vehicles leap onto enemy tanks with grenades and pistols. Visibility drops to 0. The air is solid with smoke, burning fuel, and pulverized earth. The only way to tell friend from foe is the shape of the turret or the color of the uniform of the corpse hanging out of the hatch. In the middle of this madness, SS Hauptsturmführer Rudolf von Ribbentrop, yes, the same man who bailed out of his burning Panther a week ago, finds himself in command of a single Tiger after its crew was killed by a direct hit. He is alone in the turret, half deaf, bleeding from the ears, traversing the gun by hand. A T-34 appears out of the haze at 15 meters, racing straight at him. Ribbentrop fires from the hip, misses. The T-34 rams the Tiger's side on. Metal streams. The Tiger rocks, but does not tip. The Russian commander stands in his cupola, submachine gun blazing. Bullets spang off the Tiger's armor. Ribbentrop grabs an MP-40, climbs out, and empties the magazine point blank into the Russian officer. The man falls backward into his turret. The T-34 reverses, trying to break free. Ribbentrop drops a potato masher grenade through the open hatch. He never sees the explosion. Another T-34 smashes into the Tiger's rear, crushing his legs against the engine deck. He screams once and disappears under the tracks. By 9:15, the first wave has burned itself out. The field is unrecognizable. A lunar landscape of burning tanks, some still moving blindly, ramming friend and foe alike. Crews crawl from hatches on fire, rolling in the dirt. The wheat is gone, only black earth and steel remain. Surgeons will later say the smell is unique, burning rubber, roasting pork, cordite, and sunflowers. Rotmistroff, watching from the orchard, is white as paper. In 45 minutes, he has lost almost half his tanks, but the German advance has stopped dead. On the German side, SS Oberfuhrer Teddy Wish of the Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler stares at the carnage through binoculars and speaks the sentence that ends the myth of German armored superiority forever. They're not fighting for ground anymore. They're fighting to exterminate us. And they are only 90 minutes into the day. Behind the Russian lines, the 2nd Echelon, 29th Tank Corps, another 400 tanks, is already rolling forward to finish what the first wave started. The morning is young. The killing has barely begun.
11 a.m. The temperature is now 41 degrees Celsius in the shade. There is no shade. The battlefield has shrunk to a single cauldron 3 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. Hemmed in by the railway embankment to the north, the Psel River marshes to the west, and a low ridge the Germans call Hohe 252.2 to the east. Every tank that tries to leave the bowl is shredded by anti-tank guns on the high ground. Every tank that stays is murdered at point-blank range. This is no longer a battle. It is a blast furnace that consumes steel and men at the same rate. Inside the bowl, time has collapsed. There is only the next target, the next shell, the next heartbeat. Captain Mikhail Borisov, the 32nd Motorized Rifle Brigade, has lost his tank and now leads 12 infantrymen on foot through the smoke. They move from wreck to wreck like ghosts. Their job is simple. Find German tanks that are buttoned up, climb on the engine deck, drop a Molotov or a captured telemine through the air intakes, and run. Borisov's face is black with soot. His left arm hangs useless, shattered by a shell splinter. In his right hand he carries a bottle of aviation fuel and a burning rag. He spots a Panther reversing slowly, trying to drag a burning T-34 off its bow. The German crew is too busy to look behind them. Borisov sprints, 20 meters, 10. His men fan out, firing PPSH bursts to keep the turret buttoned up. He leaps onto the rear deck, jams the bottle neck first into the engine grill, and dives off. The Panther explodes from the inside out. The turret lifts a meter into the air and comes down crooked, like a broken crown. Borisov does not celebrate. He simply turns and looks for the next one. 12:07 p.m. On the reverse slope of Hill 252.2, General Pavel Rotmistrov is no longer commanding an army. He is trying to stop a massacre. His reserve brigade, the 53rd Guards Tank Regiment, is down to 19 runners. He has just received a radio message from the commander of the 29th Tank Corps, General Karanchenko. Cannot advance, cannot retreat. We are burning in place. Request permission to die where we stand. Rotmistrov's answer is one sentence. Hold the hill, whatever the cost. Then he does something no Soviet general has ever done in front of his staff. He sits down on an ammunition crate and cries. Not loudly, just silent tears cutting channels through the dust on his cheeks. A political officer starts to object. Rotmistrov silences him with a look that could freeze fire. Those boys are 19 years old. They have never even kissed a girl. 1:20 p.m. The Germans try one last push. SS Sturmbannführer Joachim Peiper, already a name that makes Russians spit, gathers every tank still able to move, 22 Tigers and Panthers, and leads them personally in a final assault up the western slope toward the state farm Oktoberski. Peiper stands in the cupola of his command Tiger 133, headset around his neck, pistol in hand, screaming at his drivers to keep formation. They crest the rise at full speed. What waits for them is the entire 25th Guards Tank Brigade, refueled and rearmed during the brief lull, hull down behind a shallow fold no map ever showed. The first volley of 85mm and 122mm guns is fired at less than 400 meters. 14 German tanks die in the first 30 seconds. The rest scatter like startled cattle. Peiper's Tiger takes 3 direct hits. The driver is killed instantly. The gunner's legs are crushed. Peiper himself is thrown clear, landing in a ditch with a broken collarbone. He lies there staring up at the sky, and realizes the sound he hears is not engines anymore. It is silence, the silence of an attack that has run out of men willing to die for it. 2:45 p.m. A German medical orderly, Helmut Ruschengrad, crawls through the wreckage with a Red Cross flag tied to his rifle. No one shoots at him. There is no one left to shoot. He finds a Russian tanker sitting on the ground beside a burning T-34, both legs gone at the knees, trying to light a cigarette with shaking hands. The Russian looks up, sees the German, and offers him the cigarette. Ruschengrad takes it. They smoke together without a word. Around them, the battlefield is a single funeral pyre. Over 600 tanks, some counts say closer to 800, lie dead in an area smaller than New York's Central Park.
The ground is carpeted with track lengths, shell casings, and pieces of men too small to recognize. The sun beats down mercilessly. Fuel and oil burn with black smoke that rises thousands of meters. Vultures, real vultures, are already circling. 3 p.m. A final radio exchange, crackling and faint. Leibstandarte headquarters to 2 SS Panzerkorps. Request orders, we have no more tanks. Corps to Leibstandarte. Hold present positions, defensive posture. There is a long pause. Then the voice from Leibstandarte, exhausted, almost laughing. Positions. There are no positions. There is only fire and bones. The greatest tank battle in history ends not with a bugle call, not with a surrender, but with the simple, terrible realization on both sides. No one has won. The wheat will grow again next year, taller and greener than ever, fed by what lies beneath. And somewhere in the smoke, a single T-34 with a cracked turret limps eastward, trailing fire and oil, its crew singing drunkenly because they are still alive and the sun is still in the sky. Behind them, the valley smolders. Ahead of them, the road to Berlin has just opened, paid for with a river of steel and blood no one will ever be able to count. But that is a story for another day. Today, the gods of war are satisfied.
July 13th, 1943, 4:12 a.m. A cold rain begins to fall across the Prokhorovka plain, as if the sky itself is trying to wash away the smell of roasted flesh. In the ruined orchard that was once 5th Guards Tank Army headquarters, Pavel Rotsmistrov walks alone between the burned-out hulks. He counts the dead tanks the way a shepherd counts lost sheep. His boots squelch in blood-soaked mud. Every few steps he stops, bends down, and closes the eyes of a boy who will never see 20. He finds Vladimir Buchkovsky's T-34, the one that rammed the Tiger. The hull is split open like a tin can. Inside, 4 charred skeletons are still at their posts. The driver's hands are fused to the steering levers. Rotsmistrov pulls a small notebook from the commander's breast pocket. The last entry, written in pencil the night before, reads, "If we die tomorrow, let someone tell my mother I was not afraid." Rotsmistrov folds the page carefully, puts it in his own pocket, and keeps walking. He does not cry again. There are no tears left in him. 50 kilometers north, in the smoldering ruins of Poniri, Walter Model stands on the balcony of a shattered schoolhouse and watches Soviet troops move openly in the open for the first time in days. His 9th Army has lost 50,000 men and almost every heavy tank it possessed. The northern pincer of Citadel is a broken claw. Model dictates the single sentence to his adjutant. Operation Citadel is to be considered concluded as of this evening. He does not wait for Berlin's approval. July 15th, Hitler's Wolf's Lair, Rastenburg, East Prussia. The map room is stifling. The Führer's left hand trembles uncontrollably, the first visible sign of the Parkinson's that will eventually kill him. Field Marshal Erich von Manstein, flown in from the Southern Front, stands rigid in his dust-caked uniform. He has not slept in 5 days. Hitler's voice is shrill. "You promised me Kursk would decide the war in the East." Von Manstein meets his eyes without blinking. "My Führer, Kursk has decided the war in the East. We have just lost it." Silence. Then the screaming begins. Generals stare at the floor. No one defends von Manstein. No one needs to. The numbers speak for themselves.
2,700 German tanks committed, 1,500 already total write-offs, 500,000 German casualties since July 5th. The entire strategic reserve of the Wehrmacht, armor that was supposed to stop the next Allied landing in France or Italy, is gone, burned or broken on Russian soil. At 19:47 p.m. on July 17th, Adolf Hitler issues Führer Order No. 43. Operation Citadel is terminated. All offensive operations in the east are to cease immediately. The greatest gamble of the war is over in 12 days. July 23rd, a collective farm outside Prokhorovka. The rain has stopped. The battlefield is finally cool enough for the burial details to begin. Soviet women, mothers, widows, school teachers, conscripted for the task, move in long lines with shovels. They dig mass graves for their own dead first. The Germans will wait. There is no hatred in their movements, only exhaustion. One woman, Anna Morozova, finds a German soldier still alive inside a knocked-out Panther. His legs are crushed, gangrenous. He has been there for 11 days, surviving on rainwater and the blood of his dead crewmates. He looks up at her with blue eyes already filmed with death and whispers in broken Russian, "Wasser, bitte." Anna kneels, lifts his head, and gives him water from her canteen. When he is finished, she presses the muzzle of her pistol to his temple and pulls the trigger. It is the only mercy left. That night, the first harvest of sunflowers begins to push through the soil. Tall, thick stalks, fed by a fertilizer no farmer ever asked for. August 5th, Orel and Belgorod fall. August 23rd, Kharkov is retaken for the final time. The Red Army does not pause. It cannot. The men who survive Prokhorovka carry something new in their eyes, something that was not there before July 12. It is not hope. It is certainty. They know now that the Germans can be killed in job lots, that the tiger and panther are not mythical beasts, that the fascists bleed the same red as everyone else. And so they march west. Behind them, the plain around Prokhorovka is quiet again. Farmers will plow around the wrecks for decades. Children will play inside the empty turrets. Rust will claim the steel. Grass will cover the bones. But every year, on the 12th of July, the old men who were there, both Russian and German alike, will wake from the same dream. The roar of 800 engines, the sun flashing off 1,000 gun barrels, the moment when two armies decided to murder each other in broad daylight. They will wake sweating, hearts hammering, reaching for weapons that are no longer there. Because some sounds never leave you. Some places never let you go. And on the wind across that quiet field, you can still hear it if you know how to listen. The low, endless thunder of iron rolling toward its grave. This is where the Third Reich's back was broken. This is where the road to Berlin began. This is Kursk.